Good morning. In view of Chris Bishop's first announcement, I didn't know we had any Alabama fans in this congregation. Except for one, and who really cares? Last week was the week of upsets, I guess. We'll be in the second Psalm this morning, so just keep your Bible open if you like. Psalm 2. Just keep it in front of you. We'll focus on the opening verses of it this morning. And there's a statement in this psalm that kind of grabs my attention. And it's the statement in verse 4 that indicates that God laughs. He who sits in the heavens shall laugh. And if you care to check the Psalms, you'll find a similar reference in at least two other Psalms to indicate that God laughs, and in the context of each of them, the setting suggests those who are evil and God laughing. Now, laughter. You laugh and God laughs. I've heard it said that laughter is the best medicine, and I believe it. I like to laugh. I like to hear people that like to laugh. And sometimes just the way they laugh is enough to make you laugh. Just kind of contagious in that way. And I can't think of laughter without thinking of Brenda Henson, because when Brenda laughs, the world is a better place. And when she laughs, I know she's feeling good. And when she's not laughing, I know she's not feeling good. And I have to check in with her and see what's going on. So she has a jolly heart, and she helps you feel better, and me. Love it. I guess we laugh for any number of reasons. The number one reason being when somebody is funny, we laugh. I remember as a kid, I loved to watch Red Skelton and Flip Wilson. And boy, those guys, they could make you laugh. Still can. I love both of them. We laugh when somebody's funny. We laugh when people are silly. We laugh sometimes just to keep from crying. Sometimes you just have to laugh. We laugh sometimes in scorn, as indicated in this psalm and in the other psalms as well. We like it when people laugh with us. We laugh together. You don't always appreciate it. I don't guess you ever really appreciate it if somebody laughs at you. You don't like that. I guess there's good reason. But the human factor of laughter, God gave it to us for a reason. Help us feel better and help others feel better. There's something in God's design about that. There has to be. And we need to provoke it often as we can. The right time, the right place, for the right reasons. And it's interesting in this psalm that God laughs. Now that's something we don't often think about. At least I don't. It's difficult to imagine God laughing. And then questions run through your mind. What would make God laugh? Flip Wilson? Red Skelton? Nah. There's something else involved here, something far more serious than that. But the Scriptures tell us God laughs. What about that? Why would this psalm indicate, He who sits in the heavens shall laugh? What does that mean to you? What does that mean to me? Is there anything that I can learn from it that would help me view the world as it is now as compared to the way it was then when the psalmist wrote it? To say, you know, God appoints His kings and He puts them in position to rule, and the nations rage and they rise up in protest against God's appointed leaders, and He who sits in the heavens laughs. Does that tell you anything? Does it say anything to you at all? Or is it just one of those psalms that you just read it in passing and it carries very little weight with you? I want us to approach it this morning from the standpoint of, yes, God laughs, He who sits in the heavens, and we may by our actions provoke it. Not that it's funny, because it isn't funny when God laughs. That's my point. You don't want that. And you're not going to laugh if God's laughing at you, if God is smiling at you or me because of the decisions that we've made and the way we choose to live our lives. Because we fit into a society at large that effectively laughs at God, and God is sitting back smiling for the reasons that we'll notice this morning. And I don't think that anybody's laughing when it's all said and done. It isn't funny when God laughs. Let's notice the first 3 verses of the psalm, because the opening verses of it will point out to us those who provoke the laughter of God, the objects of His laughter, if you will. Look at it again. Why do the nations rage? And the people plot a vain thing. The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against His anointed. I'm going to pause there for a moment. The context of this psalm has to do with God's setting up a king. Now, in our class this morning, in my auditorium class, I touched on this momentarily because the context of this might fit David, it might fit Solomon, either one or both. And the kings being anointed, which they were, Jesus fitting the picture of the anointed later on, as He did, the Messiah, if you will. The nations react to this. Nations were at war against God's chosen. And notice how they went about it. The nations rage. That depicts to me fury, anger. What about it? Well, they plot a vain thing. They are determined to do what they do. That's determination. They plot things out. They think and plan and operate that way, you see. Kings of the earth set themselves. That means that they're resolute in it. They're immovable. You're not going to change their minds. They set themselves. Okay? And then they take counsel together. They get together, round table, as it were, and they make their plans. They talk things out. And they have a common goal. They work together in this. They're opposed to God. Now, it's not too difficult to imagine these are the Gentile nations in their rebellion against God. We don't talk today about Gentile nations that rise up against God, but we do talk about those who do. Those who don't believe that God exists. Atheists laugh at the very idea of God. They'll make fun of you because you believe in God. And they'll ridicule you that you don't know anything, that you don't believe in science. And they'll laugh at you. In so doing, they laugh at God. And guess what? God laughs back. Our culture today is about self and about identity. And I pointed out to you before that identity is the new idolatry. Identity today has settled itself in society and in culture in terms of sexual identity, that people want to relate to whatever it is they choose to do, and they set themselves there against the teachings of God, the teachings of your mom and dad, the way that you were brought up, all of that. They've set themselves against it. In a sense, they laugh at God, and God laughs at them. I picked up something the other day in a newsletter that I get in the mail. And this article caught my eye. The article says, Satanic Temple places pro-abortion billboards in Arkansas. I haven't seen these. It may be that you have. But the billboard says abortions save lives. And according to this, one of these billboards is visible near I-30 in Little Rock. So there's one around here somewhere, I guess. But the billboard is put up by the Satanic Temple, paid for by the Satanic Temple, with a website on it that points you to a place where you can go and buy abortion medicines in New Mexico. All right? Now, abortion save lives. Now, if you can figure out the logic in that, then please help me, because I can't. There's no way. Now, this flies in the face of what God teaches, what the Bible says is right, the sanctity of life, all of the above and more, and yet they're laughing at God. They're laughing at you if you believe otherwise. And I pray you do. But God is laughing at them. The nations rage. That's the way the psalmist worded it. We word it a little bit differently today. Culture rages. It's up in arms against God. Our culture does what the nations did then. They plot. They set themselves. They take counsel. The woke culture of our day does this. And we watch it unfold. And there it is in front of us. Very similar to the situation described here by David. The second point that I'll see in this is those who oppose the Lord and the Lord laughing at them. The opposition's already spelled out in verses 1 and 2. They're against the Lord. They're against His anointed. They break their bonds in verse 3 in pieces. They cast away the cords from us, any ties, connections whatsoever. To God, they throw them out. And He who sits in the heavens laughs. Hard to picture God laughing. And yet, doesn't it give us an idea of the fullness of God? We can forget, the nature of God and what God is, who God is and what He's like. And we have in our minds an image of what God is like, and yet these Psalms tell us He who sits in the heavens laughs. You want to take that literally? Okay. You want to say, that's imagery painted in terms of human ways so that we can understand, I don't know, maybe so. But it isn't funny when God laughs. And the opposition provokes it. And even though they do, God smiles. And He sits back and He watches. He sits back undisturbed. He's not bothered. He's not provoked. He's not worried. There's no pacing back and forth. He sits back and He smiles. He watches the futility of people in their ways, and He smiles. He realizes the final end, and He smiles. And He knows that His cause is secure. His plan is right. And Satan and all of his defenses cannot defeat it. There is no way. So He who sits in the heavens shall laugh, and the Lord shall hold them in derision. That's parallelism right there. And then He shall speak to them in His wrath, and distress them in His deep displeasure. Yet I have set my king on my holy hill in Zion. The king, David, Solomon, God's plan, bring it forward. It's not funny when God laughs. That's serious business. And I could leave it there. But let me go on and look at verses 10 through 11, because in this psalm, as you come toward the end of it, God is not only the God who laughs, but He's also the God of second chances. Look at verse 10 beginning. Now therefore, be wise, O kings. Be instructed, you judges of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear. Rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son, lest He be angry, and you perish in the way, when His wrath is kindled but a little. Blessed are those who put their trust in Him. You'll kindle the wrath of God by your actions. We will by ours, society and culture. And here's the mixture of emotions attributed to God, that God laughs. You can very well provoke His wrath. You better believe it. But God is the God of second chances. That's what these verses are about. Now, therefore, you better wise up, O kings. Be instructed. Serve the Lord. Rejoice with trembling. Approach the Son. Because if you don't, you'll perish in the way. Blessed are those who put their trust in Him. There's your second chance. You don't have to follow the course of these nations, cultures, societies that rage against God. We don't have to do that. We can smile at the pleasure of public opinion and think that we've got, we're right there with the majority of people. That will do you no good. Because God laughs, and that's not funny. But there's a second chance. It may apply to you. I don't know. It certainly applies to the world. God's telling them, you better wise up. The gospel is there to get people to think. Turn them to the Christ. And get them to assess their lives. And look at the Son sent into this world because God loved the world. Not that God sits back and laughs and makes fun of us. That's not it. He smiles at the foolishness of humanity. He's made His plans. We're not going to upset those plans. We'll upset ourselves. We'll hurt ourselves, yes. But the second chance is always there. Take advantage of it this morning. Act on it. Think about it. Let it sink into your heart a little bit. Something that you need and I need, we all do. Take advantage of it. Come to the Son. Come to Him through His will. Come to the Father through that Son while we stand and sing now to encourage you.